Hang on, I'll put this thing.
Hey, Robert, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Hi, Brian. Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and good to meet you virtually. So, yeah, I'm Rob Bartolome. I'm an Australian living in Europe. I've been here for 20 years. So I was only supposed to be here for a year, and then 20 years later, I'm still here. So figure that out. Yeah, so I started in investment management back in the mid 90s in Australia, in Sydney, working for National Australia Bank, and then I moved over to A&P Capital, which is a large Australian insurance company, doing basically sales to pension funds, foundations, endowments, asset managers, and insurance companies. And that was a great start for my career because it gave me the opportunity to then move over to Europe with them. And I started at Henderson Global Investors in London. And that was only supposed to be a 1 year gig. And then I got a call from Morgan Stanley Investment Management and went over there. And then that started the ball rolling. And at that time, I was in what you would call the buy side. So selling to the investment management area, so the investment managers themselves. And I got a call from, at the time, Nomura, which is a Japanese investment bank, to go onto the sell side, which means selling into, from the banking side, selling into the asset managers. And so that gave me the great opportunity of then starting on the investment banking side. And now I'm at BNP Paribas, which is a large French banking group, obviously, and I'm heading up the funds distribution part, which is basically packaging investment solution, complex quantitative investment solutions into mutual funds, and then selling those to a wide range of clients, including pension funds, asset managers, insurance companies, but also retail. So we do a lot of work in the US as well with 401k type of clients and so forth. So it's a great opportunity to get this type of product out in the market. I have a team of salespeople that are based around the world. So I have people in Paris, I have people in Switzerland, I have people in Germany, and a couple of people in Hong Kong and Singapore. So it's a large team, and hopefully we can continue growing it.
And how do you differentiate yourself in that type of market? Because there's lots of options, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think I mean the quick answer to that is that we're a niche player in a large market. And what do I mean by that? If essentially what I'm doing is I'm selling an investment banking product to an investment management client base, and so therefore my natural competitors are investment managers, which are, there's plenty of them. There's loads of them. I mean, every time I speak to a client, they said, you're the fifth or sixth client I've spoken to, a fund manager that I'm speaking to this afternoon. But essentially, what I'm selling is a quantitative investment solution. So my product base is basically based off an algorithmic model, and that the beauty of that is that we're able to lower fees. So discretionary portfolio managers typically charge 1 in 20, which is quite a large amount of commission these days,
Yeah.
especially since most of these guys have difficulties in actually performing or performing above the benchmarks, right?
Right.
So a lot of the clients are actually looking for passive strategies or strategies that are cheaper and just give them what the market is doing. And what I'm doing is what my client base is getting from our product is something that is enhanced passive, which means that you're getting something above the benchmark, and at the same time you're getting something which is a lot cheaper than discretionary portfolio managers. And then the other thing is that we actually have a very transparent business model. So the client can see exactly how this product is working at any given time. We give them very sophisticated reporting. They have access to online tools that allows them to see what the actual performance of the product is. And so therefore the client himself or herself can actually see what the product is doing and how it's helping their portfolios. You can't get that from a discretionary portfolio manager. The discretionary portfolio manager is typically an investment manager who makes decisions based on, whether they have had tea or coffee in the morning, right? Or how he's feeling, and or how she's feeling, and how that is reflecting on what's happening in the market. So it's a different type of product set. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of the investment managers are actually now coming up with similar products to this type of algorithmic or quantitative systematic solutions. So we're getting competition from the asset management side, but it's still very slow.
And what do your clients want? Not from the product, but from the salesperson, because I'm sure in this space, they all want to think that you're a commodity.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think, the answer to that is what I'm offering, or what the clients would like is a little bit more access to market information. Okay, so I'm not just selling a product, right? We're not just selling a mutual fund. And I'm not just going into those meetings and saying, look, I'm the relationship manager. Let me bring the portfolio manager to talk to you about the markets. I'm actually doing that. Typically, the people that work in investment banking in my area are called sales traders. That means that you're actually engaging with the client as an investment professional. So you're actually able to dialogue with them about what's happening in the markets, right?
There you
So
go.
what is happening? Yeah, what's happening in the markets, how that's going to be impacting your portfolio, not today, but over the next 6 to 12 months. We also have access to all our economists and strategists that allow them to actually get access to that sort of information, which typically an investment management company can't do, or they can do, but it's basically their own opinions. Okay, so their own, what they're delivering in their products. In this case, they're actually getting that added value of actually being able to participate in what's happening in the market, straight off, from the actual investment bank themselves. So not, channeled through the asset management side. And so I think this is a big plus, because what I find is a lot of the times when you're trading with, when you're working with clients, they appreciate the fact that they have access to all this information, which is they can get from other people, they can get from other banks. But if you've got that relationship and you're able to really nurture that one-to-one relationship, they count on you, or they look at you as the first choice. And I think that makes us that makes that relationship so much better.
And is that the hardest part, is building that relationship and not,
Absolutely.
looking at you as just a spreadsheet with a return and.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of the things. I mean, I listened to your podcast. I mean, for years now, or for a few years. Once I came across it, I'm
It's
an
addictive,
adamant.
isn't it?
It's addictive. It's addictive, right? So, and it comes across. A lot of times, it seems like there's a lot of communication done by emails, or automatic sending of information. In our world, that doesn't work. It's really much it's still like a real old school type of building those relationships. So I'm not saying it's all wine and dine. It's all, and obviously we're not doing that in this COVID crisis anyway, but there is the notion of having the coffee with a client on a regular basis, getting really behind what they're doing, not only on the work side, but also on a personal level. And in many cases, I was speaking to a colleague, an ex-colleague before. A lot of these guys, are actually more friends than clients themselves, right? So you're the person they come to because they see you more as a personal friend within the market, within that market environment. And I think that is the key. And if you're able to build up the relationship on a personal basis, you're speaking to them, so often that you actually get to know way ahead of when they need something, what it is that you can propose. So today, I mean, we a lot of this is also done through Bloomberg chats and so forth. And a lot of times they'll come up, they'll inadvertently give you, let's say, a heads up on something that they could be doing in the next 6 months. and that gives you the time to actually speak to your, your structurers or your mathematicians and the people that are actually putting the products together to come up with something that could be quite unique as opposed to your competitors. And they would only do that with you because you've got that relationship, right? So
Right. And that relationship, it's trust, right? Because
absolutely, absolutely. Because I mean,
it's not
we're
just that
talking
they
of,
like you, you're
yeah, yeah.
charming, right? But
Exactly. But it's also trust. Yeah. I mean, here we're talking about it's funny you come up with that because a lot of the times when we're doing deals or when we're making trades with a lot of these clients, we're talking about 20 to 30 million euros or dollar type of investments. And so these guys are usually the CEOs of the companies, right? So they're the chief investment officers, and if you're giving them a product or they've put something in from your company that is going to bust up, I mean, that's going to hit their bottom line at the end of the year, right? So, you can only do that every so often. I mean, obviously, all investment products will always have, let's say,
it's risk,
cycles, right?
right? And you
There's
don't
always going to be
control it.
there's always be risk. There's always going to be, I mean, COVID last year was the exact example, but it's also how you deal with that. So, for example, how proactive you are in explaining what's happening to them. Making sure that if you're selling something and then you go to your next client and then you don't follow that up or you keep that relationship, that's a sign that they're not going to trust you because they know that you've done the trade and then you're off somewhere else, right? And so building up that trust is fundamental, because if they don't trust you, you're definitely not going to be able to work with them anymore.
And I think a lot of people misunderstand that the personal relationship is essentially trust. They might enjoy you as a friend, but they also know that you have access to information. You have their best interest in mind
Absolutely.
over
No,
your
absolutely.
own, even.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if I recall, in all my relationships, in Australia, in Europe, in the US, I spent a couple of years in New York as well. It's always down to the fact that those personal relationships are also going to give you that trust, but they're also going to give you that let's say that connectivity, because one of the things that also comes to mind is the fact that you're going to have different touch points within those companies, right? And so the fact that you're trusted by, let's say, the investment manager, who's going to introduce you to someone else that you need to speak to, or you need to have the relationship to get that trade done, means that he will only do that if he trusts that you're not going to embarrass him, right?
Right.
Or you're going to make him look like an idiot, right? So it becomes quite important that is well established. Yes,
And
absolutely.
and I think, like you brought up about the sending the email, because the email could present your product in the same words that you would verbally. But
Yes.
without the trust, it has no meaning. It is not
Yeah.
believable. It is not.
Yeah. It doesn't give you any it doesn't give you any advantage. And let's face it. I mean, as I said before, the asset management industry. I mean, there's so much competition. It's just crazy. So the emails that these guys get is just, I mean, yeah, you see it in the States, right? I mean, the amount of marketing that the Fidelities of the world and of the Morgan Stanleys of the world and so forth are doing is just phenomenal. And that means that these guys are just bombarded with emails and messages and so forth. So that stuff just doesn't stick, right? So I mean, the email introduction of products. I mean, I hardly even do. I mean, it's literally getting on the call and establishing the relationship, or establishing the time actually meet up. Now we're doing this on video, but usually it's a meet up. Let's meet up for coffee. It'd be great to understand what you guys are doing, give you an introduction on what I'm doing and so forth, and from then you get that personal thing happening, and it happens, and it allows you to get to the next stage. And I think it just the email is just doesn't actually work at all in this industry anyway. I mean, it works for, if we're sending out information to clients that we already know and so
have.
forth. Sure,
Yeah.
exactly. But as an introduction or as a way of getting clients in, there's no way. And the phone never rings, right? There's no way that there's no reverse stuff here, right? So the client never calls you saying, "Oh, I saw that thing," right? It's you that has to
Anything
go,
new?
right? Exactly. So.
And how do you know much about finance? Is this like, where do you study it? Or
I guess I was lucky because I did that at university. So
okay,
my major was in economics. But I think that the unique thing is that if you come from a different background, it actually helps you in this world, because let's face it, the creative part of doing this business is so important. Okay, so I've worked. I mean, when I was at Morgan Stanley, one of the most successful, let's say, salesperson, or he actually became the head of sales for Morgan Stanley Europe, was actually a chemistry major, right? So he was a chemist for the first 10 years of his life, and then he decided to get into finance because of a personal like, and he succeeded and he did it. So yeah, so you need to know it. You need to understand the markets, okay? Especially on the investment banking side. As I said before, you're not just a relationship manager. You're actually a sales trader, which means you need to be able to provide that sort of valued information. And most of the times people are personal investors as well. People who
sure,
actually,
you've got money.
yeah, you've got to invest it, right? And you've got to understand how the markets work, because otherwise, there's a lot of sticky conversations that you have if you don't know what you're talking about. So you need to do it, and you need to be able to take it on. And then the other thing is that you need to. I think what's important is, and I do this for my team, is continuing to refresh your knowledge, not only of the markets but also of the sales process, because it's such a complex sales process that it becomes stale if you don't keep on refreshing this. So we often organize sales courses and motivation speeches and things like that, group sessions where we put into let's say teams and trying to work out how to get into a new account, or how to bridge the gap of poor performing products and so forth, and that helps us immensely, because it's one thing that you don't learn at university. You don't learn, I mean, as I've heard some of the podcasts that you've done in the past, where this, the sales stuff is a thing that is never taught, right? It's something that people just end up doing, right? And I think that gets you to a certain point, but then you've got to go to the next level of really being able to do this effectively.
And selling is a lot like those heuristics that you come up with for trading.
Absolutely.
There's so many variables.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we also take into account is the let's say the human aspect of trading, right? So the emotional aspect of trading, which is also the emotional aspect of the sales. Because, I mean, to give you an example, when the COVID situation hit in February last year, this was the time where most salespeople in the finance industry were not calling clients, because obviously, if you called a client, the client would tell you, "Look, I need to get out of your position because it's tanking," right? Whereas this is the perfect time to actually do it, because in that sense, you're actually providing some sort of valued information. And what we try to do was really get behind let's say the not only the technical aspects, why the market was reacting as it was, but also the human aspects, right? Because a lot of people were saying, well, we need to get out, we need to cut these positions, and what we found was, if the clients, and this was exactly what happened, the clients were able to remain in those positions, and at the end of come 18th of March, we saw the pickup in the markets, and the positions that were cut were the ones that made, obviously, the losses, because if you don't cut, you don't make the loss, right? If you keep it, you keep on going. And this is something that is very related to the human aspect of, the behavioral aspect of sales, but also of the clients, because the clients, and especially in the COVID side, there was also the aspect of many clients not knowing, how they were able to continue trading also from home. So after the clients were all sent home, all the offices closed in Europe, a lot of these people, a lot of the asset managers were actually trading from home, and they didn't have the systems. They didn't have, in Europe, most portfolio managers had never worked from home in the past, right? So most of them were actually blanked out for the first, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so you've got portfolios that are tanking, and you've got no way of actually trading.
Access. Yeah.
And so there was a lot of panic in that period.
Well, you would think that, certainly in the finance space, that these would be cold, analytical, unemotional people.
It's well, there's the Europeans as well. I mean, a lot of the clients that I'm speaking to are all Europeans, so there's a lot of
Emotion.
emotion, right? A lot of emotion, and we saw a lot of that, especially in the first couple of weeks. Especially, as I mentioned, a lot of these guys had their hands tied because their banks or their organizations were not geared up for this sort of situation. So they were doing a lot of phone trading, which is going back to the 1980s. You had a lot of clients that had issues with actually taking, even seeing what the markets were doing themselves. They had no access to Bloomberg. They had no access to Reuters and so forth. So you had a lot of very angry people, very emotional people. It is what it is, and we were fortunate because BNP Paribas, for this type of activity has always been very well advanced. We were home working ever since I've joined the organization. There's always been the possibility of doing that, so we're actually able to get in front of the clients and help them out through this. So a lot of the information that we were sending for many clients was the only information that we're getting on the markets for those first couple of weeks, and then obviously they got geared up themselves. So we were able to help them even on that side, help them out in this blank period.
So, from your perspective, what makes a great salesperson in your space?
I think it's someone who's passionate. Okay, you hit on something just before, right? A lot of people, a lot of the clients are analytical and cold. Right? Okay, you have a lot of emotions over, but we are effectively finance professionals, right? So you have a lot of accountants, you have a lot of very analytical,
down people.
Yeah,
right?
The clients themselves, they're portfolio managers, right? So they're looking at balance sheets, and they're very, very much accountant-like, right? So I think if you're able to go into that situation, that sort of sales process, and you're enthusiastic about your product, and you're able to be creative about how you actually do that, that makes a lot of impact. And so the client themselves are able to see that as the charisma coming out of the salesperson. Apart from the knowledge, you need to have the knowledge of the markets. As I said before, you actually need to know the product inside out, as we said before. But you also have to have this X factor, let's say, that allows you to transmit the quality of the product, and your enthusiasm about the product, because obviously you're trying to transmit that to make sure to allow the client to understand the benefits that he or she is going to get from this product, right? And you're not going to do that if you do it as if you were them, right? So
right, yeah.
So I think this is the big key, because then you're able to you're then known in the market as someone who's able to transmit that enthusiasm.
Yeah. But how do you balance that with the knowing enough about it? Because I sold technology to technology people, and I had enough of a background, I could hold my own. But when I go to a new job, there's new vocabulary, new acronyms.
Sure.
And the engineers are trying to not trip you up on purpose, but dig into it. They want to talk their language, their speed.
Sure. Yeah. I think it is a balancing trick. You're right. And I think you need to, you don't want to come across as a clown, and the clients just see you as the guy that takes him out to lunch and
Right,
that does all the thing. You need to be able to also engage with them on a technical manner, and you need to be up to date and delivering quality information. I think this is the quality that comes out. A lot of the guys, the most successful guys in my team, actually are able to do that very well, and they're able to switch in and out when you need to. You need to know when you're able to, to do the joking and the charismatic thing, but then you need to actually be able to switch into the let's say into the serious stuff as well. And I think also what you need to be able to do is also be very well organized. And what I try and do with my sales guys, and also for myself, I mean, I'm still selling to my own clients, even though I'm managing the team, is you need to be able to do the regular catch-ups with your clients and have some sort of scheme that allows you to see what the deals are, where the deals are going. There's a sales funnel, which ones are stuck in the process, which ones are almost closing, and being able to do that, because there's so many client visits that you're doing that you just can't manage it on an Excel spreadsheet or just off the top of your head. You need to have a system to do it.
Yeah.
And I think the most successful ones are the ones that are able to stick to that process and see and see that sales go through the flow process.
And that also brings up that, because the stuff you're doing on the financial side, you're trying to predict the future. Right?
Yeah, essentially.
And that's what sales is, right? We're trying to
exactly
prioritize based off of who's most likely to close.
Exactly. And what happens, the trick with our industry is that that could be there could be an interruption, a sudden interruption that caused by the markets themselves, caused by, a lot of times you have, for example, right now we're on a risk on environment where clients are engaged with the markets. They see that there's still a lot of momentum going. There's still a lot of catch up happening in terms of the US market and in terms of the European market and so forth. So, but that could change. That could change very quickly. We saw, just a week ago, we had a hedge fund that busted up and a lot of the client positions were affected. We could have something else happening, right? So a lot of these things, especially in the financial markets, you're right. You see the future. You're trying to predict the future. You're trying to predict when the quickest ones are going to close, but they could be put on hold very quickly. And then you need to be able to prioritize on something else. You need to prioritize on the clients that are maybe looking at the more defensive products rather than the more risk-on products. So you need to have those. You need to have those clients ready, or you have to have the products as well as the clients ready and waiting to be able to update your pipeline very quickly.
Cool. Hey, I really appreciate your time today. It's been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so Roberto Bartolome at BNP Paribas. I'd be glad to get to know some of your listeners, and anyone that needs more information on what I'm doing or what BNP Paribas is doing, please get in contact.